Prepare yourself for a sprawling discussion on just about anything, where critical thinking meets pop culture in a collision of mind-bending proportions. Please secure all neurons and prepare for full frontal cortex. It's time for Incoherent Ramblings. Hello everybody and welcome to Incoherent Ramblings. Rambling 3, this is going to be on reality. We're going to talk about what's real and what's not. And here today is myself, Joey Sham-el. We've also got two other people here, as always.
Kail Anderson.
And Giors.
And today it's all about what is real, what is not. And I didn't have to watch Looper.
And what is in between.
Ooh, that was nice. So, we were coming off of time travel last week, and we thought it would be a great idea to hit reality, since we kind of touched on that. So, let's talk about reality. And I think we should start off, before we get into anything else, what do we mean by reality? What does it mean to you guys? Where are we kind of going with this today?
Kail first.
Oh, all right.
And go!
He wasn't ready.
I threw that on you. I didn't put that in the notes.
No,
Nice.
reality, I think that reality is relative. And it is your perception that determines what your reality is. And quite often, I think that's what it is. It is a subjective thing.
Daryl?
I think that as true as that is, everyone has a different perception of reality, and everyone has their own version of reality. I think that that's in reference to the model that we create of that thing, which is objective out there. Because I think it's possible that there's one true reality, one objective reality that all of us see in a different way, and we fill in the gaps, etc.
And
I agree with that. I
yeah.
think there is an actual reality.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that. But
Which is
what
not
that
tabula
is, we
rasa.
will discuss.
And I of course agree with that too, and that's part of what we're going to discuss. And I also like the idea that we can control reality more than we think we can. That maybe reality is more subjective than objective in some ways. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about
control all reality, so that's...
Well,
yes, you do, Kail.
think if you want some idea of that, think about the power your brain has to create illusions when you do something like lucid dreaming.
Ah, yes, and that.
So you can create your own reality in your head that's completely disassociated from the objective reality out in the world. You're laying in bed with your eyes
definitely
closed.
going to talk about that.
Right.
I definitely want to talk about that.
So just a quick look at what we're going to kind of try to cover today, partially from what we just said. Reality and perception, subjective, objective, and we want to go into science, and of course the most favorite... which is the... Oh, yes, and today's episode is brought to you by Thundercracker. Transformers Thundercracker masterpiece, who Kail was just playing
Don't you
with.
think we should get an advertising contract with Hasbro before we start doing that?
Well, we might go to someone... You know what we should do on the podcast is put a picture of whichever toy we had that week on the YouTube one. That would be
We're
great.
talking about reality, and
Yeah,
there's a
there's-
Decepticon standing there.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's incoherent.
And I think at the end we're going to talk about, hence the name, we'll talk about how reality may just all be a sham. None of this is real. Or it's
That's
all...
our host,
Hello.
Mr. Sham.
Mr. Sham. Oh, you're hilarious. That's
Yes.
me, my last name. Ah, you're funny. Okay, so let's talk about...
Hey, wait.
What?
That's my reality, not yours.
Because he's...
Oh, you're killing me.
Because he's Daryl Giors, and that's why it's funny, because that's his last name. Oh.
I had a little Waldorf moment there. The two Muppet guys.
Oh, yeah.
Sattler and... Is that
And Linda's laughing. If we had her...
now.
Yeah, she couldn't stop. She actually, if you played it back, you could hear her laugh.
Hey, she spit up her Diet Coke.
If I
also
had a-
brought to you by... Oh, never mind.
No, yeah.
If you know
the
what,
advertising right
if
now.
my sister's son was here, my sister would be laughing, and her son, and her Sorry, I was feeling left out.
Oh, wow.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is our reality. Okay, so let's talk about perception.
It's pretty sad.
All right, let's talk about perception versus reality. What is the question I'd like to pose to us first?
See, some people found that last segment funny, and others saw the objective reality that it really sucked. I'm sorry, guys.
And I think there was 3 in the one group and everyone else in the other group. But as long as
everybody listening is
we're in the
turning off
95%, it's fine. Okay, so
I'm old school. Turn off the
perception
radio.
and reality. The question I'd like to pose to everybody out there, especially us since we're the only ones talking, is how much reality is actually present in each moment that we perceive? Oh, how much of this is real?
I think that every moment is real unto itself, but the problem is, once again, like when we were talking about time, it's irrelevant until it is attached to the next moment.
Nice.
Okay.
Argue that, please.
I don't think I have to argue that. I just want to corroborate it with another thought that since we have a continuum of reality that we're flowing through as time passes, one thing we have to keep in mind is that not only are our senses incomplete and we fill in the gaps of things that we don't see, we also only have senses that can detect certain things. Our 5 main sentences, and of those we only detect certain frequencies of sound, certain frequencies of electromagnetic radiation. So we have our own built-in deficiencies of how much we can take in. Then we have added deficiencies about how much we can process, because our eyes, ears, touch, smell are overloading. It would overload our faculties to process all of it. We wouldn't know what to pay attention to.
Especially sound.
Especially...
Yeah, all of a sudden when we had that silence, then I could hear my fan on the computer, so I had to unplug it.
I want to just take that one more level. Not only do we have to... our mind has to discriminate between, just... It's like separating the chaff from the grain. We try to determine what is important to pay attention to and ignore the rest. And that's why when we're focused on something, we can miss the Moonwalking Bear in that one past the basketball video, right?
I'm sorry, what'd you just say?
Moonwalking Bear.
I totally agree with you on
Then
that.
for yet another layer of things that are kind of messed up is that outside of the immediate now, all that we have beyond that is memories of past sensations and past thoughts. So we also have to rely on this flaky memory, and as we lose more and more of those memories, we fill in even more of the gaps.
Well, then every time we remember them, they get re-encoded into our minds,
Right.
And they've been
And
changed.
the gaps widen.
That's
and
why
increase.
Yes, and
witnesses are so unreliable.
I think that is... Yeah.
Somebody said that once. And
I think so.
Yeah, I
Some
wonder who
very
that could
wise
possibly
person.
be.
Yeah.
I
And
love it when we reference ourselves, because we don't have to go to Wikipedia anymore.
Yeah, because we just rock, so yeah, it's all badass. Anyway, and what about the fact that when we're constantly creating a model of the reality around us? Like you said, we're modeling what we see, but we don't model everything in the sense that, if they track our eyes and our eyes are moving like all over the place. I forget what that's called when your eye does that little move, but it's like it's moving a little bit here, left, up, right, down every fraction of a second.
Oh, they're like micro movements.
They're micro movements. They got a name for it. And what you're doing is you're actually like drawing that picture in your head, like of the room that we're in right now. It's like my eyes have drawn that picture, but it hasn't noticed everything. It's like you said, what's important, and it's put a picture in my mind, and that is my reality right now. And much of it is what's really there.
And you can turn that into a game where you say, leave the room and then tell me how many red candles were in the room.
Exactly. I would suck at that.
And when there's so much stuff around you, you might not have ever noticed that there were...
Oh, red candle, I see
candles.
too. Now I know because you brought it up. But that's a good point. In reality, our reality has to do a lot with where we're focused. And especially for people with ADD, where we're either really focused or not at all.
Because in my model of this room, Joey's not even here.
Not even here?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been drowning out the whole time. That's why I talk over you all the time.
Tear.
That we were talking about
Poor
that,
Joey.
and one of those things, and cops do this, and
They don't know I'm here either.
when I was a cop,
If they did, this podcast would be a short one, I tell you.
when I was a cop, I actually had a beat where I would drive that same place over and over again, and what happens is I would do that too. But as you were driving along, at first, you're watching everything, to
Right.
make sure everything is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But after months and even years of driving the same beat, you don't do that anymore. You just drive along and you don't pay attention. But the second something's different, now it draws your attention.
Yeah.
And that's why when you're a cop, you can do that. You know when things are not right. They'll just catch your attention, and your perception becomes the reality.
And luckily, we don't have to always pay attention to everything because that's part of our brain that we don't have to be conscious of. Our consciousness can be thinking about other stuff, and there's another part in our brain, especially when we're trained, that lets us. Otherwise, we'd be like, "What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Ooh, okay."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we might not sound like that.
Well, that's why the idea of ADD being something that's bad for education and the theory on that is, it's the same exact thing. It's just a matter of not having the same discrimination to weed out the things that are inconsequential. Like you might be in class and you see a bug crawl across the
Right.
floor, and then that's all you're thinking about, and you've lost entirely what they're trying to teach you at that moment.
The actual theory, I believe, that went around for a while, I think still is that ADD was a trait used by the hunters in the hunter-gatherers because they had to hyper-focus or they had to be aware of certain things at certain times.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're working in a big group of people, I would like it if, there are some people that can focus at the opportunity at hand, like you're tracking an animal and you're trying to find it, and you could have, as long as there's one person in that group who's also keeping an eye on the periphery, because they might have a wandering eyeball and they're looking all around, and then that's when they notice that, that tree you were just about to climb to sneak up on your prey has a giant asp in it.
Oh wait, that's not an asp. Sorry. I thought you were going to go jaguar for sure.
It has a jaguar in it. Wrong jaguar. How'd that get up in the tree?
All right.
Why don't we move over to what you were talking about with memory, about how our memory, because that's part of the idea of the model our brain makes and how reliable it is in determining what reality was that we went through. Any thoughts on that?
Reality. What a concept.
Okay, so I'll go. So everything we are is based on our memory. If it's not in the moment, then it's our memory. And Daryl said earlier, we don't remember everything. We fill in the gaps. And I think that's a lot of what happens is that we are... we remember, like our brain keeps bits and pieces in it, and it's almost as if there's little, what's used these days, tags, right? That's the big thing in computers today.
Right.
The fancy computers.
Tags or labels.
Yeah, labels. That's the word I was looking for.
Mixing those two up earlier today.
Yeah, and so you've got these tags or labels in your head, and when you hit one, it starts to bring back all the other things that it has to do with, and you rebuild your memory.
Yeah, definitely. I know so much more than I can coldly tell you. You give a subject like reality, and you say, all right, tell me about reality. Now, I'd go, and I might freeze, or I might give one or two sentences. But we start talking about it, and it triggers all those memories, and now I remember everything, all about it.
Yeah.
So now we're ready to have a good discussion. My brain's going.
I hear the jaguar purring. So.
Oh yeah, that was a purr.
I thought it was going to be more of a burp. That was kind of...
Cucumber?
Oh, were you going to say something, Daryl, about memory?
Because we replay certain things in our mind, like post-traumatic stress syndrome, that can also be debilitating, that the past is so distracting that the present is no longer consequential in a certain way. And also it can bring back stresses that you've experienced in the past. But also just with or without PTSD, you're going to relive important moments in your life over and over again in your head. And what's kind of frightening about that whole concept is that every time we relive it, those, again, like we said, those gaps where we fill in the memory have widened every time. But because we're reliving it in our head, it becomes the new reality for us. It's the way things absolutely happened. And if someone, you experienced witnessing a robbery at a convenience store or something, right? You could relive that in your head over and over again, and you'll say, oh, the perpetrator wore a red hoodie. and you might just relive it that many times that by the time you get to the point where you are convinced that that's what they were wearing, you might get another witness that says no, they were wearing an orange sweater. And you go, that's impossible.
Right.
I remember this verbatim. They had a red hoodie on. And then you get the surveillance tape and determine who's right. And perhaps they were in a gray pullover. And both of you are wrong. And it's just the malleability of our memories. We think of them as being so cemented that we lived this. We saw with our own eyes. Seeing is always believing. And if you've seen an optical illusion before, you should realize that seeing isn't always believing, because you can make a model of something that just isn't there.
That's why magicians are so successful, is because they are exploiting those deceptions. Mm-hmm. It's like James Randi, he's called an honest liar, because he tells you he's going to trick you and then he does it.
Right.
But one of the things is that
maybe more well-known Penn and Teller are of the
yes.
same ilk.
Oh yeah, well yeah, they are actually. James Randi was on Penn and Teller's bullshit several times because he's such a great guy. Anyway,
well, I think that's the first time we outright swore in this, even though it was just naming a program. That's
no. I'm sure we.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that. Oh,
this is
mean it happened?
This
before?
is for adults, damn it!
Don't you freaking forget it.
That's right.
I'm not going to say anything.
I did say Frikin, though, before, didn't I? I guess I wasn't
Yeah,
willing
but you were talking about breakdancing in the 80s, so...
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Oh, you weren't? Okay.
That was just not going to be part of my reality. That's not...
To add on to that, you got what you were saying, Daryl, reminded me of a show, and I think this is it. I think it's on Brink on the Discovery Channel. And it was, I believe the name of the show was about memory. It was Understanding Memory. And it was really good because they basically had a fake crime, and then they asked, and out in the middle with a whole bunch of people, and they asked everyone who wants to come in and be part of the show and say what you saw, and everybody had different ideas. They were sure of it.
Yeah. They were sure of it. I remember I've seen
and they were completely wrong, most of them. And then it was amazing how much they were like, this was the guy, or this is what happened, and it had nothing to do with the original.
Yeah. That's like when cops take a criminal into the interrogation room, and who they think is the criminal, and by the time they let him out of there, he's sure he did it.
Yeah.
And I've seen cops, they're actually having to stop, cops from using certain techniques because they can totally change somebody's reality.
And I'm kind of surprised how many misconceptions there are about things like that, because I remember years ago, if I heard something like that, I would be so convinced that people do remember things correctly before I became a little more skeptical on that point. And I also used to be a little more naive about how varying people's different realities are from one another. Because I would understand that some people have a different point of view, but I didn't understand it in the way of they might actually see things completely differently from the way I see them. But if you're like years ago, I would have heard about that and said, well, that's kind of silly. How could someone be convinced they committed a crime they didn't do?
Right.
But the reality is that really does happen.
Yeah. Oh, and there was that girl who was convinced. Who convinced her father molested her because of the psychiatrist or whoever, the hypnotist.
Or repressed memories too.
Yeah, repressed memories, and now they really have to be so accurate.
That's some scary shit right there. Oh, I swore! Exciting. Okay, it's because as a teacher, whoa, what if some kid is like, hey, I remember Mr. Sham-el was doing that. What the hell? That never happened.
Unfortunately, in the court of public opinion, usually the person who's being accused is just assumed guilty. Yeah. Even though that's not our legal system.
I wish I remembered the guy's name, but he's actually recording his whole life.
Is that the chair?
No, it's somebody outside talking.
But I hear this metal scrunching sound.
If Joey moves back and forth, it'll make that noise.
Oh, okay.
But
we don't want to let you know what Joey's doing right now.
Adult show. Sorry. I'm the moderator. Okay, anyway.
Now you're going to have to remind me what the heck I was talking about.
I think it was having to do with memory and child molesting.
No, there was none of that in there. I
Joey
know
forgot
that
he was
for
on
sure.
a podcast.
That's not in my memory. Don't put it in there.
No, we were just talking about the girl who said her father molested her.
Yeah, and then I was going to say something else. Anyway.
Oh, never mind. God, our beliefs are all over the place. Talking about beliefs, what do you guys think about beliefs? Okay, so that was really bad, so I'm not even going to try that.
The thing is just that what Daryl's hinting at, and we're obviously going to get into, is people's beliefs and their reality as opposed like religion.
Which brings up my next question. Where do beliefs, ideals, morals fit into the concept of reality?
Well, people believe that it is total reality. Too many people think their beliefs constitute their reality.
Right.
And that's not the case. And I totally understand that concept now, because when I was a kid growing up, of course, I was very religious. And now I'm a non-theist. I don't believe in any supernatural existence at all. But in that process, all of a sudden you get to a point where you can now see it from a larger perspective and realize that you were putting your beliefs as your reality. But people who are in their beliefs cannot see that they're only seeing their beliefs as reality.
And I think the way to describe that is dogma. That if you are told that you're supposed to believe the universe is a certain way, and you're told that over and over again, that becomes your reality, and it's unquestioning. And most faith-based systems are built upon that. It's this is your reality. This is what somebody or something tells you is real, and you're supposed to take that at face value and not question it. Right. And of course, more, shall we say, perhaps more liberal versions of religious faiths and whatnot will encourage people to question, but they usually also want you to go talk to the pastor to kind of bring you back.
Make sure you don't
circle.
Question the wrong thing.
Right, to make sure that you've as many doubts as you have, go talk with your pastor.
Right.
Then they can reassure you that everything is true.
One of the things I think that really, I guess, punches a hole in that for me is when they've discovered what the guy calls the God helmet. And it's a scientist, and I should have looked him up.
Actually, doesn't that give you like plus 10 armor class in D&D?
It does. It does.
All right.
I have no idea.
God helmet plus 10.
But man, my
anyway,
I would like to smite an orc.
But anyway, so you put on this helmet, and it stimulates portions of your brain. Stanley Coren. Stanley Coren. Thank you. And by activating, he can cause you to have a religious experience.
I thought you were going with erection.
Well, if you get turned on by God, I guess we shouldn't even go. Never mind. Anyway, so he turns on the current, and you have a religious experience.
Yeah.
And you turn off the current, it's gone. And it's proven through his research that it is only the current going into your brain that is causing you to have these hallucinations.
Because there's a portion of the brain that is responsible for the feelings of being in the presence of greatness, and that elation and that uplifting you get from being in a worship.
Yeah, what I think is strange, or interesting strange, is the fact that people who have hallucinations don't question them. I think that's strange. That's the first thing you should do.
Yeah, that is a very good point. That's what I've always thought about. If I was crazy and started seeing things that don't make sense, I'd be like, okay, that's not real. Or
you start hearing a voice, and you believe that it's not, can't be in my own head, even though we've shown that people have multiple personalities and can be totally different person. There can be 7, 8 people in the same head.
Well, remember in the X-Files show that we were all supposed to watch,
spoiler alert!
They called... Yeah, not necessarily.
I don't know. That's so old. I don't think we can say it a spoiler alert.
They called one of the characters a fantasy-prone personality.
Okay, we're talking, by the way, about the X-Files episode, also known as what's his name?
Jose Chung's.
Yeah, Jose Chung's from Outer Space. And so if anybody wants to check that out, you can push
Season
pause and go
3,
see it.
episode 20.
We don't necessarily have to
crazy.
do the deep dive on it just yet, but I wanted to bring
Okay,
up that
go ahead.
phrase was used, the fantasy-prone
Right,
personality.
for
I
that
think
one
that
guy,
everyone's on
yeah.
the continuum. There's some
And it's
people that
interesting.
question everything that they see, maybe even too much, because they go like, well, I know I saw that, but did I really see it? And then other people that take everything verbatim, like my head is a recorder that's very reliable, and everything that comes in will be played back exactly the same.
Right.
So if I experience some voice inside my head, that must be real because my head recorded it, and I know that it was there.
And if
So you have a recording head?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a flying erase head too.
good
I don't
nerd
think I
talk.
want to see
Nice
that.
stuff.
I don't want to watch that.
But if you want to hear some of those people, just tune into Coast to Coast AM any
Yeah,
night.
no kidding.
Because I used to listen to Art Bell when he ran that show, and I was interested. I thought it was great. It was really mind opening as I saw it. Now I listen to it, I'm like, these guys are freaking nuts.
Yeah, they're a little out there.
Daryl, you said it best to me when we were in high school. Make sure you've got an open mind, but not so open your brain falls out. I love that. I love that phrase.
If you have an
Yeah, that's
open
from my
mind and
dad,
you start
actually.
hearing the wind, maybe it's time to close it up a little.
Because there's people who will just go and they don't look at logic at all, and they go right. But in a way, logic is a belief that we go for, and we're okay with. So, what if logic was
Well,
wrong?
that's the thing is this logic itself is about trying to discover the truth.
Yeah.
And so it's logic is a process, and it's I guess if you
Maybe
back
that's
up
what
from non-philosophers, critical thinking, and that if you can approach everything with a little bit of critical thinking, most of the things that are not correct, you will notice them.
Yeah, but maybe that's just what logic wants us to think.
And it does.
Logic has a personality.
Now it does in my world.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday! The Moody Blues with special guest God Helmet.
Why does logic sound like an announcer from like Monster Truck Rally?
I was thinking the most.
This is your announcer, Logic. Don't
I
ask.
couldn't resist. I had that stored up a long time, and I just
You
didn't
just
know
had
when
to get it out,
Didn't know
yeah.
when to put it there. There was a
Why
lull.
not? This
I
is
went for it.
this is our reality. We can
That's
put
right.
anything into it we want.
And looking at that, how much control do we have over reality? I mean, obviously there is there's our imagination,
Our perceived
or
reality.
our perceived reality, our model, and then there's where we can move and touch, which stems from us and control, as far as we know, and then outside the limits of where our body goes, seems to be the end of our control of reality, at least in a moment. Obviously, over time, you can affect things that you're not around. But can you control reality beyond that, or is that where it stops?
I think it depends on which reality you're talking about, subjective or objective.
So let's talk about subjective.
I think you have almost unlimited control over that in a way.
Your own subjective reality, and maybe
Yeah,
even somebody
definitely.
else's subjective reality.
You have total control over it if you're willing to hallucinate too.
Right.
Because there are people in institutions that are seeing a completely different. They're really actually seeing a totally different reality.
And we don't have
what we
control.
are.
Yeah, but I don't have complete control. I want to see like
I overstated it.
yeah,
So,
because I
it's
want
not
to see a
complete control.
flying turtle right now, and I don't see it. I mean,
But you
in my
can.
head,
I just saw it in my head.
but I didn't
Right.
see it with my eyes. I want it right here, and I got to take some
So okay,
hallucinogens.
there's a lot of involuntary process there, I have to admit. So saying that you have full control over it isn't really right. But it's one of those things that you can affect
Yeah.
based on things that you do. You can train yourself to think about things a certain way. You can train yourself to pay attention to other things. Like a lot of times when I encounter new people, I often forget their names pretty fast. So that's one of the things that I do
always
when
do.
when I get, because I usually am switching my mind from one subject to another, and I'm pretty task oriented for a lot of things. So if I know I'm meeting some new people and we have something we need to get done, I'm usually more focused on the thing we're getting done. And I unfortunately don't pay enough
Yeah.
attention to their names. And that's one of those things that I can retrain myself, though. I can make my reality where naming keeping track of
Sorry,
names is-
Daryl. It's making me laugh. You see Monty over there?
Yeah.
He is moving his butt over the water bottle, so he's getting wet.
Oh, you guys got to see this out there. You check this. Oh, you can't.
No, you can't. But it's making me laugh.
We'll post the video.
Yeah. Okay. Get my phone out.
Oh, God.
It'll be our second or third post.
Oh, you guys talk. I'll get the video.
All right.
Continue on.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So you have a limited scope of control over those things, but then you can really do that kind of thing when you have lucid dreaming going on, because if you are able to dream and realize you're in a dream and not wake up from that realization, you can suddenly control a lot of what's around you. So in the situation Joey brought up, like I want to see a flying turtle or something, you'll really see it if that's what you want.
That's true.
He
What I
likes
think
it wet.
is interesting about
he likes it wet. Oh, it's
augmented.
so good. So wet. You like it wet?
No. Anyway, augmented reality in dreams. So actually, if you wake up in your dream, quite often you only have a couple of seconds before you're either awake or you're back asleep again. And every once in a while I've lucid dreamed where I actually gained control of my dream for quite a while. But it's been really tough to actually gain control of your dream.
Yeah, it is an exercise, and it takes a lot of work, and I really would love to do that, but like every exercise, I just don't get around to it.
When you actually can do it and fly, like Superman, and I've done that a couple of times in my dreams, that's just unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah.
The feeling you get from doing that.
Yeah.
And it's not real. I don't know. It's real in your
But
mind.
it is real, but
it's real experience.
in the books, they say how you know it's not real. You can tell, and it's true. I mean, it feels real, but you know it's a dream. And there is some weird thing about that. It's hard to explain.
Well, what I want to say about the control issue, since I'm backtracking on my original statement, I think that in that situation, that's when you do have ultimate control. But what you're talking about is, for lack of a better term, your mind has a BS sensor, where you weigh incoming stimulus and you go, is this really happening or not? And when you're awake, that's the kind of thing that can discriminate between a hallucination and something that's actually there.
Actually, it makes
you've got your BS detector on.
It makes a lot of sense. The people who hallucinate probably don't have that working like when we're in a dream. We see these crazy things not lucid dreaming, and we go, oh, look, a flying turtle. Hey, that's cool. Where's my friend?
Well, in a lot of dreams I have, too, my father's there, and he's been dead for
years. My
so,
parents, too. I have a lot of dreams, and you don't even think about it.
Yeah, you don't think about it until after you wake up and you go, oh, wait, my dad was in my dream.
Yeah.
And it never occurred to me he shouldn't be.
One of the things that is an exercise to learn how to lucid dream is that, and at first it sounds a little silly, but actually it works well, is that you choose something that would not be real if you were awake. Like my thing was float off the ground. If I stop for a second, and it sounds totally ridiculous, but during the day I would try to float.
Right.
And of course, in my reality, the real reality, that's so redundant, but
Objective,
thank you. Objective reality, I don't lift off the ground. And I did that for several weeks, but one time I did. And that was the time I was dreaming. And so I knew I was dreaming because it was something I could not do.
And you told me about that, and I wanted to do it too. And I always get there's the perverted part of my brain that goes, "Oh my God, I'm dreaming. I can have sex with anyone. Oh my God, and I wake up.
Yeah.
Wait, is my wife gonna listen to this? Damn it!
You're.
Yeah. This was before you met her.
Of course. Yeah. That didn't happen last night.
Wow.
But here's where I want to extend the thought from into reality. Now, we've already come across the technology that we can control something across the room by using technology. And so there's a way to control something outside of your specific reach. It's not necessarily in your head. It's not necessarily at your fingertips, but you can still control it. And there's, if we go, well, let's stick with that. Because I want to kind of go to I love the idea that maybe reality we have more of an ability to control it. Now, we're all critical thinkers here and all very skeptical, and I'm not really going to the area of, like, telekinesis or something parapsychological, but at the same time, I kind of want to look in that area, because a lot of people go that direction.
Yeah.
And I'd love it to be true, even though it probably isn't.
I totally agree. And you start to understand the blurring of those lines when you talk about those people who now can control things outside of their bodies with their minds. The bionic arms that they are now testing, or that guy who put the chip in his head. They put the chip in. He didn't put it in. The doctors put the chip
That
in
would
his
have been
head.
a cool trick.
And he
Hey,
was
look at
able
this.
to control
It's a
and play
Dorito.
video
I was going to say that was the only kind of chip I've ever put in my head.
and he controlled a mouse and also played video games
Yeah.
on a computer. And that
By simply thinking
about
So
it.
those things actually become a real extension of his mind, not just something
Exactly.
he controls with his body
exactly,
parts.
and that's something I was thinking about earlier when you were talking, but I forgot again. But it totally goes in there. Is what your brain is in a black box,
Yes.
and you don't perceive anything from around us at all. We have sensory organs that deliver information to our brains, and we interpret those, and that becomes our sense or our reality. What made me think about this is that, what are you guiding me in?
Daryl's doing airplane movements.
Yeah, he was. I was like, okay, you're in there. You're almost there.
No, I can hear your audio wavering because of the
Oh,
hands.
thank you.
Oh, he's doing the hand thing.
Thank you, Daryl.
No problem.
I didn't understand, but thank
I
you.
guess we gotta. Maybe you should start that thought over again. We're gonna edit a whole bunch out.
And
All
go.
right.
All right.
Okay, so our brains are in a black box which we cannot perceive, and one of the things is there was this kid on this program, and he was blind, and he had been blind. I think he was blind from birth, but what he did was that he would click,
Yes, I've seen
and
this.
it would the sound would bounce off of many different things and come back to him. It was echolocation, but to him, they even made a simulation of what he saw because it became vision to him, so that he could walk around, and by clicking, all of a sudden, it creates reality for him. Around him, he could see objects. He couldn't see them with his eyes. He was seeing them with his sound.
He was
with his
creating a
ears.
model in his head that was,
Yeah.
and
And
I think we get that, but we're seeing so strongly it overshadows.
I think that that goes into perception of reality.
Yeah.
In that, I think that if we had organs that perceived other dimensions or other realities, that our brains would be able to process it, because it's like a generic computer, and we are able to put a program in there which runs our hearing, which runs our eyesight, and if we were able to plug in like a goose's electromagnetic field, then we would also see the electromagnetic field that they follow to fly.
And I always like the idea that we do have some organs like that. They're just not in use. The idea, for example, I used to say as a kid, what if I had an eye in my stomach, but it's dark in there, so it never sees anything, so I don't know it even works. You know, that type of thing. Of course, the acid would digest it. I
Or your
understand that
tail.
now. Yeah. What?
Your tail, your object that you can't see. You do know you have a tail, right?
No.
No, see, he doesn't believe that. I don't see. He's too smart to fall for that false reality.
You know the truth. But if we're living in our heads, and we're just in our, are we more in our heads or are we more out here? I mean, we got a body out here, but when we say us, who we are we just in this black, dark room, and we are inside the room, and in the room, which is dark and black, we don't see anything, don't hear anything, or we're just standing there. Like, I think Mr. McQueen said it best. My teacher, which Daryl knows about from Pasadena City College, he said, I'm dancing right there, and he danced in front of the class. And then he said, but I'm not really dancing here to you, I'm dancing in your head. Because that's exactly what it was. We had a picture in our heads. Everything we see, everything we are, we're inside of our brain.
Yeah, but I think that what our senses allow us to do is that the big thing now is augmented reality. And actually, I think that's what we're already doing. We are using our senses to walk around and perceive the outside world. We're in an augmented reality because you take away somebody's sight. Now that's one part of the augmented reality they no longer have. But if you gave them the ability to do something else, they would. I think that if you grafted a second set of arms onto somebody and could really tie it into their nervous system, eventually those arms would start to work, and they would be able to manipulate them just like they do their own arms. And their brains would create a program software to do that.
You know, and strangely, it's almost like with social media and the internet, that's almost become another limb for us. And we're creating a reality because At the same time, when I have this, reality of the room around us, I'm also have this kind of outside reality of what's going on Facebook and Google and news that we just didn't have before. I've got this kind of other part of my brain that's thinking about these other things in the background.
So how often do you poke people with your Facebook limb?
Oh, every now and then.
I turned it off. It bugged me to be poked, so
okay.
I turned mine
It does
off.
bug him to be poked.
Yeah. I poke back with my pinky. So.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention something about the echolocation kid. I wonder how it was determined, or if maybe it was a fault in reporting, how they determined that he would quote, see the things around him.
They had extensive interviews with a couple of different scientists, as I recall. Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't actually think... And this is where reality gets a bit weird, because I don't think he was actually seeing, because it had nothing to do with light. So as we see, the definition is not seeing, but because his brain is the same, and it processes things and makes a model in the same way, it was using that model-making ability and using the sounds to create the model. Right. So it's more like the model we use, we're using our eyes mainly, we're using our eyes to make this model of the world around us, but it's not... doesn't look this way necessarily just because this is how light is coming into it. It's the way our brain makes a model of the world around us. So if you were using your ears as your main source and you found a way to do echolocation, it would kind of overlap that, and you'd kind of have what we kind of consider visual.
So it would be pretty impressive if they, say, did a functional MRI while he's echolocating, which would be really hard because you have to be sitting inside of the MRI to do that. But if they had that and they found that his visual cortex region was very active as he's echolocating, that might be a sign.
It was. They actually.
It was his actual, the area of his brain that sees or would see. Right. That's where he would.
He wrote
but by the same token, people blind from birth, that gets portioned for or re. It gets. It doesn't. It doesn't. Like the optic nerve isn't carrying information to the visual cortex, so the visual cortex gets
used for other things.
Yeah, it gets used for other things like enhancing your discrimination of audio and feelings.
I think that he just took it another step, because I think even when we close our eyes and we listen to sounds, I think we even get kind of a picture from that, a very very light picture. And I think people who are blind can do that too, but he actually is making a very detailed one because he's using the clicks to make the picture.
And I think that in a way that's one of those things too where it's modeling yet again. We have a model of space that's that takes information from our vision.
That's what it is.
But that's not the only source we have. We can use, in our day-to-day lives, we use echoes to tell distances too.
Yeah,
you can shout in the dark and hear a reverberating chamber
and know where something is or
and
someone is.
And then oh, I'm in a big space.
Yeah,
or you can hear
a
little
Doppler effect. You can,
and we don't even realize we're doing that. And that's just it. If you close your ears, you kind of don't realize it, but you kind of don't get as full a picture of the world. I mean, you're kind of closed in more. That's how you feel. And this kid though, he was riding his bike. He ride his bike. That was amazing.
Very
right between two cars and didn't even hit him.
I'm familiar with that.
The movie wasn't fantastic. I thought they did a really good job of letting us know how he was seen and how that process.
Are we talking about Daredevil?
Yes. Hey, I
Have
said
you ever
it
seen
wasn't
the
that
director's
great.
No,
movie, but
is it really? All right.
What?
Director's cut is apparently better.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Well, I always liked Daredevil, so when I saw it, it was okay.
I think in a way though,
that was not a fart. That was a.
you could say it's sightest. The way that almost everyone is. I think that there's just we put such a priority on our vision that we tend to want to make that association for someone who maybe never had vision and never will. We want to say this kid is echolocating, he's seeing things in air quotes. Yeah. But really, what is he getting? Maybe he's getting a better sense of the space around him. Yeah. Does he imagine in his head a visual plane in front of him? I have my doubts about that. I don't know how you would ever prove it.
I think
no. He's obviously he's hearing, so he's seeing three-dimensionally. If you want to look at it that way,
right?
So he's even seeing better than us.
I think it's even limiting to call it seeing, as if he's seeing with eyes.
It's how we can relate to it, because otherwise it's just way beyond the possibilities. I mean, it seems like there's so many things you can control. Have you guys heard of the guy who can control his temperature in the freezing cold? They put him in ice. And
the monk. monks.
Not a monk. He's an actual guy, and he actually ran like
Monks aren't human?
Listen, Dick. Okay, you don't need to go there. You know what I was saying.
His name is Kail.
Listen, Kail. Dick.
All right, go ahead, Joey.
I don't remember what I was saying.
Kail,
Oh, there's this guy.
There was this guy.
There's this guy, and he actually ran the Iditarod, I think, barefoot, and they thought he was going to...
Yeah.
Or he ran a marathon in the cold. I don't remember what it was. It was something in the cold, and he should have lost his feet to frostbite, and they thought he was going to lose it, and while he was there,
Did he
he
have
did...
a shiny coat?
He did his thing, which...
Do you have 4 paws? That's what I wanted to know.
He wasn't a dog. He was a guy. He was human. I just said that. You're not paying attention.
He pulled his own sled?
Yeah, well, you would need to, because if you're in the Iditarod, you have to have a sled.
It wasn't the Iditarod.
Hey, Joey, rock back and forth. He's pulling his own sled.
I am the moderator, and I will have respect in this podcast.
Yeah, respect for everyone else.
God. Okay, there's a guy, and his feet should have fallen off, and he stopped it. That's all I wanted to say.
Cool.
Let's move
And you
on.
know those monks? Those,
Okay,
those guys that aren't
I
real?
just spit on my computer.
What they did... What they did is they actually put wet sheets on them, and by their own control of their body, they would dry the sheets.
I've woken up
And
like that a couple of
remain
times in the
warm,
night.
and they'd take it off, put another one on. They could do it again
Wow.
and again. You can actually go
Yeah.
on YouTube and see these
I'm
guys
sure
doing that.
And their utility bill went way down after that.
You know,
Yeah.
they
I
never
put
even
one.
used.
I
utility.
put one in my bathroom and just have him sit there and be like, "You're cool." This towel's wet. I need it. I want it warm when I get out of the shower. Just sit there and stare.
Here,
You're
like,
fine.
hold my lather for me. I want it to be hot and foamy. That was shaving lather. by the way.
He sounds like a didgeridoo there.
Yeah, because that's what monks play, right?
You know, he's all over.
I was
the
doing a
place.
monk chant. God. All right. So I'd like to move on our conversation now to what is the possibility that this is a perfect place for it, that our reality might not exist at all without our perception. In other words, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, the tree doesn't make sound.
I
Go.
don't buy that.
No,
Next up.
it's making a wave, which if any time it encounters something that can perceive sound, it is a sound.
So here's the question. We get this from the movie of Watchmen, and I guess better from the comic. If nobody existed to perceive anything, does reality still exist? And objectively, we would think it
I
would.
think the universe existed before life started, so that's my personal belief.
It makes a lot of sense.
And I don't think
that's
I
a
don't
good way to
think
think of it.
Yeah.
And I think that we're kind of passive observers in a lot of ways. Although, take that with a grain of salt, because you can't completely passively observe something. But I think that thing is there to be observed, whether or not we're there. But we have an effect on that thing when we observe it.
The
Are you
gambling
talking
effect.
about- I was
Well-
going to say on
well,
the,
like-
the idea of. Are you talking about like subatomic particles
You can go.
where you can't
you can go either way
measure
with
them?
this. Like if you're
or their
observing
distance or
wildlife,
speed?
if you're the uncertainty principle.
Yeah.
It works for that, but also for observing wildlife.
You know,
And
I don't
you
think
have
that
to
actually-
interact in a light way with wildlife to observe them.
I think
Right.
that is not correct. I think
Uncertainty?
that yeah, I think the uncertainty principle is not understood.
Well,
That's what
yeah.
I think.
I think one
It's
of the
there, something's
things-
happening,
Yeah.
but I don't think that we are actually. The thing can be one way or another without us perceiving it. That's what I'm saying. We don't
yeah, yeah.
understand it.
No, I get what you're saying, and
Oh, we're
it's
going
something I was-
Schrodinger's cat, right?
Something I was actually
Right.
going to
Okay,
say.
I
Right.
wasn't sure where we were going.
Okay.
I got you now.
The cat's both alive and dead.
Right.
And that this is, I think, in a way, I almost don't like that description of it, because the
I
description
think it
is
muddies
once
the
you
water.
open it up and observe it, the cat's either dead or alive, right? But when you close the box, it's both. Well, I think the truth is that it's always both. Just the fact of observing it causes you to see it one way or the other.
Right.
It's
Our
not you're not
perception.
making the cat dead or alive by observing it. You observe it at a particular time, and you observe whether it's alive or dead. But all along, it's always been both.
Yeah.
That's strange way to look at it, but I think that's one of the misconceptions about uncertainty principle is that it's often talked about in the sense of observing the particle causes it to have a particular velocity, but it has no definite location.
The observation collapses the wave function.
Right. Collapses the wave function, and then you can observe it. But the thing is that I think that what that really means is, how do you observe it? You have to generally bounce something off of it, like a photon, and then receive that photon.
And at that scale, it has an effect.
Right.
It has an effect
because it interacted with the photon that you're then observing, and that interaction caused it's not your consciousness
right
reaching out and going, I'm going to observe this thing and make it collapse into some definite point. What's really happening is other particles are interacting with it in order to bring the information back to you.
And I saw something on that explained it so well, and I saw it. I'm like, that makes perfect sense, and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for bringing
that
up.
I'm glad I brought it up, though. But I just want everybody out there to know that you can find something that will make you realize.
Check your local library.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing is when we actually start having these published and the podcasts go out, and we actually have them go to the blog. Joey will have found that information and actually posted it so you can find it.
No, I'm not going to do that.
That's nice.
You are going to do that.
I mean, I'm going to do that.
Add it to Trello.
That's going to be your reality.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by Trello.
Trello.
Yes, Trello seems to be pretty good. We'll let you know if it works because it's helping to keep us organized. And if you've been listening to us, you know how badly we need that. All right. So reality exists. I think we're all in agreement with that. Although I would love the fact that we do affect reality in ways that, like, if reality didn't exist, or I'm sorry, objective reality didn't exist, then you guys don't exist, which means it's all me. So hell yeah, I can do whatever the heck I want.
Well, there's that.
Well, why would you create such a crappy existence?
No, mine's good. I just made a crappy existence for you two.
Oh. Well, why don't we just touch on that?
Joey.
Okay, let's touch on it.
Yeah.
What?
I think, therefore I am. And Joey does that, therefore he is.
That's how I know.
Yeah. So the idea about that is consciousness. Consciousness is its own evidence of your own existence. You might not be exactly how you perceive yourself to be because your perceptions.
That would be sentience. That would be a test of a sentience, because of course there are many things that are live that do not think, therefore they still exist.
I think when you model, I think consciousness actually comes from the creation of you modeling yourself modeling. It's a meta thing. When you, as soon as you do that, as soon as you put yourself in the model, it's like the lucid dream thing. Anybody who's had a lucid dream, when they're dreaming, they're not really modeling themselves as who they are. They're not saying, this is me, I am. And that's all you have to do in a lucid dream is going, I'm here in this dream, this is me. And as soon as you do that, all of a sudden, you're who you are. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. And the point I'm getting at is...
Oh, you had a point, sorry.
Well, that's all right.
No, go ahead.
No, yours was on topic and great.
That's right.
So, the point I'm making, though, is back to what Kail said about sentience. I'm talking about your own sentience is your proof of your existence, and that's the only thing you'll ever prove really exists. Since, as you mentioned, the teacher dancing in front of the class, that's happening in your head.
Right.
So is everything else around you that's not your own sentience, your conscience.
And we already know that
it's modeling what's happening. It's happening in reality. That your teacher was dancing in objective reality, but your brain is creating a model of that for you.
Right, but I see the point you're making, Daryl, which is we can never know for sure because we have parts of our brain and body that do things that we have no idea about. They make our heart beat or whatever, and we don't think about how it works or why it works, right?
Right.
But what if there's some super part of our brain that creates everything around us that we know nothing about? There's no way to know that.
We live in the Matrix.
Right.
What if that teacher never existed? They were just a computer
if we
program.
exist in the Matrix, I exist in the first movie. But
Agreed.
not the other.
Agreed.
That one was awesome.
Agreed. Except I'd like to be upside down for a little. That was kind of cool in the second movie.
So I'm saying, as far as
I just don't want to be bald. I don't look good bald.
You have no balls?
Wow, there's another cut.
I wasn't even in that one, so...
Daryl, you see this pinky?
See that pinky?
Oh, I'm going to get Facebook.
Are you good?
No. You don't understand the power of Kail's pinky.
Oh.
All right.
Someday we'll talk about it.
Parts?
No, it's worse.
Oh, okay.
No.
Much worse.
Well, so as far as proving anything to myself, and I'm just going to make the assumption that everyone else who may or may not exist is the same in this regard. I can prove my own existence by thinking and having conscious thought. I can't prove that this thundercracker in my hand actually exists because I'm relying on nervous sensory input.
You can
tell me
say
this is
you
here.
exist now, but by our next podcast, will Daryl still exist? That's what the question's going to be.
That picture will be on the website for you.
Was that one of the Ghostbusters charging up their proton pack? That was bizarre sounding.
That was a camera click.
Oh, okay.
All right. No, but what you say... yeah, what were you saying?
But then I can't really prove that I exist to anyone else.
No, and
you can't prove it to me either.
But that just comes down. You have to come to the assumption of it. You have to come down to you have to assume, because even if everything's an illusion, you might as well go with everything's an illusion. You know, you got otherwise. What are you going to do? Right, consistency. Very good.
Scientific repeatability.
Yes.
If it's repeatable, then it's real enough. You may as well call it reality.
And that's one of the things I think is really what how you should approach reality, which is you look for the people that or the action that is consistently correct, which is science. And so all other beliefs have to be tested with critical thinking. And when you do that, you see all these different systems that are proposing to predict what reality is. What is the one that consistently becomes accurate? And it is the scientific method.
And when you think, what's funny about science is it really is still a belief, because no matter how you look at it, it's still a belief as much as any religion, except for the fact, what Kail said, it's the most consistent.
Right.
We believe gravity works because every time we drop something, it falls at a consistent rate every single time. But there's no telling that in the next time we try to drop something, it won't just float there.
Well, I used to come from that angle where it was... Science is just as much a belief as anything else, but I don't like to equivocate all beliefs for several reasons. One of which is if the science is accurate, you can make predictions that are accurate.
Exactly.
What other belief system can do that?
And
unless you're making obvious predictions like this year a celebrity will die. But if you say,
and also,
so and so will die on a particular date by a particular motive depth, then you're
based on another belief. Yeah, that's
and
a very
what I
good
like
point.
is when you have an actual change in belief in science, they actually will change the belief if new evidence is brought about and shown to be more accurate.
Yes, that was the other thing, is that it's self-correcting.
It's self-correcting. Yeah. And why another reason
that's why it's trusting. The scientific method pretty much gives us exactly what we need to know.
And dogma is not self-correcting, because
it's not.
If
by
dogma
definition almost
is stuck with, like, it'll self-correct through changes in society and whatnot. But if dogma's meant to be taken verbatim, this is the truth, and someone who subscribes to dogma will claim to have a monopoly on the truth, like our way is the only real way, and that monopoly, when never challenged, never changes, and it never self-corrects. So you could say for eternity that the sun circles the earth. You could say that for eternity, and if you're dogmatic about it, you'll never self-correct that aspect of it. And it takes something like science to come along to say, no, we made observations of how the stellar bodies move, and we realize now that the earth goes around the sun. And Copernicus gives us a new reality that's been updated from what was supposed before that.
And the thing is that the objective reality was that way all along.
Yeah.
It's just our perception becomes more in line through the scientific method, becomes more in line with the objective reality.
And if your predictions are wrong, repeated testing will eventually reveal that.
And in the beginning, you may have you may be pushed to one direction or the other. You might believe this is going to happen because we're human and that's what we think. But if you follow the scientific method and you have blind studies or whatever it is, then you're going to end up finding out the truth, or at least what science says is the truth.
And in relation to our senses and everything and our failings. I started out by talking about how we're so removed from objective reality that we have we're crippled in a lot of ways in knowing what's really there. Science is one of those tools that we use to figure out what the real data is. We make as much as possible use oftentimes equipment is used, scientific sensory equipment that can offer rigid data, and as long as that equipment is accurate, it'll take samples, give us a set of data, and then we can use that data to create a model that should be pretty close to what's really there. Like you get an oxygen sensor, right? That oxygen sensor it has elements on it that are just the right size to detect oxygen atoms. So as they pass by the sensor, it'll try to get an accurate count of how much oxygen is in the air. If you had a person
counting oxygen.
Well, let's say that
that
you can shine a light through a volume of air,
right?
And it'll that light frequency interacts with the oxygen, and it's just like a spectrograph, right?
Right.
Spectrograph gets these things coming off. Well, if you had a human reading the spectrograph, just say you could put on special glasses and now you can read those wavelengths all of a sudden, you would be saying, okay, if it's a certain shade of purple, it has this much oxygen density, and if it's a slightly different shade of purple, it's going to be a different density, right? Well, all those things are going to be subjective, because from one day to the next, you could be looking at the exact shade of purple, but maybe you saw a different shade in between, and you say one day that this is 50% purple, and the next day you see the exact same shade, but you've already been kind of you've been affected by the readings you've taken since then. You might see 50% purple again, and you say, oh, it's 40% this time, because you're being subjective about the reading.
Right,
you're
but
as information that's coming to you,
okay,
you don't have exact data.
Right, but
So
equipment will, instruments.
Yeah, instrumentation tries to give you accurate data, and then you can draw your conclusions from that. And it takes the human fallibility out of the equation. Because
thank God.
Not only do you have to rely on your imperfect senses, you have to rely on your memories of things you sensed before. So, if you're going to judge the growth rate of a plant, right? If you don't have something to measure it with, are you just going to eyeball it and say that, well, the plant looks like it's 6 inches high today, and you come back tomorrow and you go, now it's 6.5, and you come back.
So when something keeps going on and on, you keep thinking like it's taking a long time. It may not be taking that much time, but is it?
Yeah, that's another perception thing too.
Yeah,
that was sly, Joey.
Yeah, just slip that right in.
Yeah.
Oh, you were getting us. I was getting that.
But
you made actually a really good point, and it makes sense. Basically, what you're saying, equipment made for a specific purpose will measure things accurately. We're not made to measure things accurately. That's not what humans are.
And it doesn't have a brain that tries to discriminate.
Right.
Well, okay, some things have a computer that...
But it's not a human brain that is made for being human.
It'll be very rigid. It has an algorithm that it runs through, and it treats all the data the same.
What do we have left, Joey?
Well, okay, I guess that's the thing. We have a natural tendency to weight information.
Right. What do we have left, Joey?
Well, we can keep going on whatever we want. So I was going to say...
I was just thinking, I was trying to see if we hadn't covered anything.
We never talked about the X-Files, at least not in depth.
Oh, no, that's true.
Right, so let's go. We could go there.
Okay.
Well, what I was going to say off of this was, what does physics say about reality? But maybe we should cut that out and talk about that on a different thing when we're talking about physics or something like that, because that's really a whole different
next week,
area.
Physics?
We could do physics next week. That's a little big, though. I was thinking dreams.
Oh, dreams.
Dreams. Might be good. Well, anyway.
The physics of dreams.
The last two things I think we should hit before we wrap this up. 3 things, actually. Let's talk about X-Files, because that was a very interesting episode. Let's go quickly into what reality... No, that's more to physics, so let's not go there. Let's do 2 things. X-Files, and then let's talk about what if this reality isn't what we think it is. Dun,
all right.
Dun. Okay. What the hell?
It sounded like...
That's Linda's phone.
Oh, I thought it was one of the guinea pigs or something.
She forgot to...
The guinea pig's going down the slide.
That sounded like the Geico pig. Today's episode is brought to you by Geico.
It's her Angry Bird sound. When
Quite
she gets
good
a
timing. All
Wait,
right.
wait, that's not Geico, is it? Progressive. That's one of those insurance companies.
Geico, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so
Just
X-Files.
X-Files.
It's been a few months for me, so give me a quick what's
Synopsis?
the reality synopsis here. What's going on?
So there's an alleged alien abduction of a couple of teenagers that break down on the highway, and the author Jose Chung is writing a book about the event, and he's been conducting an investigation.
Done it excellently by Charles Nelson Riley.
Charles Nelson Riley is a mighty man, the kind of man you never disrespect. He stood 8 foot tall, wore glasses, and had a nipple on the back of his neck.
Okay.
He ate his own weight in gold and excreted diamonds every day.
Wow.
Yeah, he can throw you down a flight of stairs, but you know you like him anyway. Yeah, you know you like him anyway.
All right.
Anyway, so X-Files.
Go ahead, Joe.
I remember that song.
No, I was making that up because I was cool.
Oh, right. That was freestyle from Joey right there.
Yeah.
So,
Weird Al.
so,
Okay.
All right.
He was writing the book.
The show, right. He's writing the book, and he's interviewing Scully about it.
Everybody's interviewing everybody.
Right. But
That's right, I remember, yeah.
Part of the setting, though, they actually show him interviewing Scully. So she has her recollection of events, then the teenagers' recollection of events.
And even some recollections of events.
Of that.
Yeah, recollections? All right, fine.
Well, no, that's perfect into what we're saying, because you say recollection, we say recollection, we say it a different way.
Yeah.
I say pillow.
Pello?
I really do say pillow.
Huh. I thought that was an Italian market.
Yeah, I get enough of it from my wife.
Really?
It's pillow. And I think that's the English way of saying it, pillow.
I thought you got enough Italian from your wife. I
That
didn't
too.
even know she was Italian.
Just a little bit, one quarter. Well, I don't even know. It's her little toe. Okay, so the
All
show.
right,
We're
the show.
way off. We got to get through this.
I think we can edit that due to boredom.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
Okay, go.
Sorry.
Action.
All right, so he interviews several people. Then he's also asking Scully about Mulder's point of view on things. And Mulder doesn't actually show up for the interview until much later, but he's refusing to be interviewed. And there are several townspeople that encounter strange things, and some people have recollections of Men in Black showing up, and it's Jesse Ventura and Alex Trebek.
Alex Trebek, that was great.
And their stories just seem really out there, but that's part of the point, that the Men in Black are supposed to be so out there that your encounters with them, no one will ever believe them.
And yet, every once in a while, they said something really good
Yeah,
and true, but they twisted it so that...
right.
And the great, I think I remember now. One of the great things about this is anytime TV or a movie do this, it's great. They show the same event from different perspectives, and it's all about what we're talking about, because it's all about how reality is seen through different eyes, even though it's the exact same thing. And when you got characters, it's great entertainment.
And I thought this related to what we talked about last week about the unfinished business, how there's an open-ended ending to Looper. That this episode lets you draw your own conclusions, because you can determine things are different ways. You could say, well, there really were aliens abducting people, or it was the Air Force had been using alien appearances as a ruse to make sure that hostiles wouldn't fire upon them, because they go, what, that's a UFO with gray aliens on it? We're not going to shoot, right? But if they know it's a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft, they might get shot down. So there are all these different layers of different bits of evidence, but they all come from unreliable resources, and it's the unreliable narrator aspect of storytelling, where everybody who's telling their story has a different perspective on it, because they experience things a different way, and their mind filtered it in a different way. So at the end of the episode, you're kind of left wondering what really happened and what didn't. And all along, they're kind of self-conscious about... X-Files has always been about investigators. And this was a little different take on it, where it wasn't just from the point of view of Mulder and Scully, but it took their points of view as two separate things, because even though they experienced the same stuff, they still had differences of opinion about what occurred. Right. And it's a little winking at the audience of, this is the X-Files. We have certain tropes that we follow, and we're making this kind of hilarious and all along a little bit entertaining about winking at the audience, saying, "Yeah, we understand that we do things a certain way, and we're letting you see how the sausage is made, so to speak."
Right, you went to sausage.
I had to go there.
I had to go there.
Just like last week.
Or actually, I just went to sausage. In that way. And
well, I always thought that Mulder needed someone, and obviously it can't be Scully because she kept buying into his stuff. He needed somebody that he could turn to and say, "Can you see that guy?"
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he needed somebody to tell him, whether like the beautiful mind. You know, can you see him? No. Okay,
see, if you watch X-Files, Scully never sees anything he sees. Not until the end of the series.
Yeah,
Be like. Yeah. Mulder's like, "Oh my God, do you see that?" And then it's like Phineas and Ferb. As soon as she looks up, it's gone.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But you're saying wink at the audience, and I think that's a good point because Mulder and Scully don't know there's an audience. One of my favorite things about reality ever is the fact that the people in a story, the characters, don't know that they're characters in a story.
Yeah.
Which means, how do we know that we're not characters in a story? Which comes to the idea of how do we know this reality is the reality as we take it and not some huge matrix computer program movie.
We might just be kind of listening on a podcast. Sorry, I didn't mean to destroy your sense of being there.
But how do we know? There's no way to know for real. I mean,
well, if we're in a holographic universe and it's just basically energy and light moving
you're not
around.
Saying, no, you mean in a holographic universe.
Because I'm done with that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right.
We're out of perception. We're into fake realities and
right.
Artificial realities and stuff. So you're
well, and that's the thing is that ultimately, I guess the most objective reality would be that everything is energy. And so when you go down to the bottom of whatever is there, what you're going to get, according to a lot of scientists now, you're going to get strings of energy.
What if that's just the basic program to the computer, the whole computer?
Well, that's the thing is that it's. You have to
just zeros and ones. That's all this table is.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you have to look at it that
come in.
Yes, we do perceive at this level that this table is solid.
Yeah,
but really, it's not. It's not solid, and that's
the
way you have to approach.
Yeah.
Right. So when you go down there, everything is energy.
I thought you argued with me about how dense particles are.
How dense?
Well, remember when I was talking about time as never mind. Space has a lot of
that
vacuum in it. Oh well.
So is this moment real, or is it just?
It feels pretty real to me. You guys are awesome.
I like to. Don't feel me there. I like to think that this moment.
Are you feeling me?
Real.
I'm feeling you.
I like to think this. I like to think of this moment as just this great comedy adventure that we're on with someone who's got a real boring script.
Look, it's just the rough draft. Okay? Really.
Oh, look, it's Daredevil. Oh, that explains everything.
Wouldn't it be kind of neat if our lives really are a screenplay and it's just like the first draft, and then you get to relive it when it's the better draft, and then after a while you're.
Well, in reincarnation, I guess, with some versions of it, you get to when you finally die, you just go back to the queue, and then you choose whose life you get to go in next. And experience their whole life.
Dude, I'm going into your life, man. Gonna mess it all up. Woo! Mess it up, Kail's life!
See, that's the thing is that it's predetermined, so all you can do is go the ride. You think you're doing it. Who knows how many times people have been in my body programmed.
Oh, lots of times.
That sounded bad.
And lots
that
of times.
Really bad.
We know you're a slut. That's where I was going, in case you weren't sure. I think it's about time to call it.
I guess so.
So, maybe dreams next week. I don't know. Maybe we should do something a little kooky since we've been heading that way the last few weeks. Anyway, you know what I mean.
Something a little bit off from what we have been doing.
We've been going like the basics of
and very
reality. It is reality.
very real.
It's so real, man.
We're keeping it real.
Yeah.
Storytelling.
So who knows what we'll do, but
it'll be no. We need to come up with something because we're not going to do it. Okay, we'll think so.
We will.
All right.
Well,
So,
this is the first time we didn't have just a natural other topic.
I know we're done for.
What?
We're
done for? Oh.
We're supposed to remember that reference, but
Yeah.
I don't.
We're done for.
I'm sorry.
Leave me, Master. Thank you. No, just leave me, Master Luke. I'm done for.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, 3PO?
Yeah, that's the problem. You didn't have a.
The reason I think it was on Big Bang or something where he goes, "Don't go all 3PO on me. We're getting out of here together." It was hilarious. All right, so we're gonna start the cool, awesome exit music because we're done for today. So that's our reality. We hope you had a good time with your reality, whatever that may be. I don't know why you're listening to this. It must suck. Your reality. This is Joey Sham-el, and
Where can we find you?
you can find me and anything for Incoherent Ramblings at iamrambling.com. Yeah, that's right.
There you go.
That's right.
And I'm Daryl Giors, and you can find me at giors.com, Giors.
And I'm Kail Anderson, and you can look it up for Rom's Rants on blogspot.com.
And if you go to Rom's Pants, you could be one of the people inside of him.
There you go. Now that might actually be fun.
Yeah, so if you want some fun, you know where to go. Thank you, and we'll see you guys next week.
Being John Malkovich.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening. You can now stop screaming at the open air. Listeners should put their minds back in their upright positions and resume traditional thinking. Find us on iamrambling.com for access to all of our weekly ramblings, show notes, general discussions, and any projects from Incoherent Ramblings. Like us on Facebook and rate us on iTunes. So long, and thanks for all the fish.